Hello, I hope you can hear me. I've got it here in my hands. You've all been waiting for it. That's right. It's the Sue Gray report. It's been delivered to me instead of number 10. But of course, we'll find out more about that later. My name is Chris Maguire. I'm the executive editor of BusinessCloud and also a new publication called Tech Blast as well. I'm delighted that so many people are watching today from all over the world. I've just seen a message from outside this country as well. So news is spreading way beyond Leeds and way beyond the north of England as well. Welcome everyone to today's webinar, which marks the launch of the inaugural Leeds City Region Tech Climbers 2022. My name is Chris Maguire. We'll be hearing a lot more about the list shortly from Anna Hayes, founder of Tech Climbers and a managing director of Active Profile as well. Today's event is entitled Tech Trends and the Investment Story in Leeds City Region. We've got two amazing panels. The first panel is very much the entrepreneurs, and the second panel is very much the experts. You could argue they're all experts. Before I introduce them, I would like to just do a bit of housekeeping. In the event of a fire alarm, that will be in your house, not anybody else's house as well. So be aware of that. It won't be a drill. I'd like to thank our sponsors and our partners, without whom this event could not happen. So our sponsors are Hill Dickinson, Mercia Asset Management, Aberson Young, BDO and Nexus at the University of Leeds. Today's event and the Tech Climbers generally is run in association with West Yorkshire Combined Authority Leeds Digital Festival 2022, which is put together by Stuart Clark, a hugely talented man, Tech Nation, and last but not least, Zoot Media. And it's brought to you by Active Profile, our friends at Active Profile, and BusinessCloud, of course, of which I'm the executive editor. If you want to follow the conversation on Twitter, then you can use a hashtag, which is hashtag Leeds Tech Climbers 22. That's hashtag Leeds Tech Climbers 22. Barry Singleton has just wished everyone from Nexus good morning as well, good afternoon now. Thank you very much for that. Our first panel is made up of our four businesses, and I'd like to introduce them if I may. Martin Port is the founder and chairman of Big Change. Sarah Pawson is the founder and managing director of Fruition Consulting. She runs two businesses, but this is the capacity we're talking today. Eleanor Metcalf is the brand and marketing lead at Tread, replacing her co-founder, Peter Kirby, who had to pull out at the last minute. So thank you very much, Eleanor, for stepping in. And last but not least, we've got David McKee, CEO of Slingshot Simulations, based at Nexus, which we heard from earlier. So I'm going to start with Martin, founder and chairman of Big Change. Martin had a few issues with his audio earlier. I'm sure he's going to come across loud and clear, Martin, but if not, I'll do my best. Martin, you're well known in Leeds. Your ambition is to grow Big Change into a fabled unicorn. Just tell us what Big Change does for those of us who don't know. So I did say there's a few audio problems and I would try and help. So I'm going to do sign language. Can you hear me, Martin? And can anybody hear Martin? Okay, now, as interesting though you are, Martin, what I will do, I'll come back to you second if I may. I'll come back to you second. We'll sort the audio issue out while I come to Sarah Pawson. Sarah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we'll come back. Martin,
I'm on now.
We're teasing everybody. We're teasing everybody. Sarah,
Sorry, Sarah.
Sarah, you stood back down.
Do you want ladies before gentlemen? Or
No. I think Sarah might more than happy, Martin, for you to kick us off. Martin, we don't want to delay the audience.
I heard the question anyway.
Okay, so Martin, yeah, you stated your ambition to make Big Change a fabled unicorn, but just for those who don't know, tell us what Big Change does.
Okay, so Big Change is a business that was founded in 2013. We established to basically help companies become super efficient, greener in their business, especially SME type businesses. We've built a product which is a 5-in-1 system. It helps companies track, plan, manage their mobile workforce, a complete solution for the office and also for mobile teams. It combines CRM, finance, quotation, to invoice, job scheduling, tracking, and the mobile app. The product's obviously very extensive, very rich. We have an amazing team of 250 people that support the organization. And our product really, like I say, helps companies become operationally more efficient, reduce costs, helps them become greener, heading for net zero and improve customer service. The sectors that we operate in are rental and hire, construction, equipment, plumbing, electrical, gas, fire, security, drainage, doors, really across about 60 different disciplines, all the way through to waste management. And some of our customers include EDF, Sunbelt, Hire Company, Anglian Windows, and Silent Night, the beds. We even make them feel more comfortable because they've got our tracking, Chris.
You're making me feel comfortable, Martin, just saying that. But question I do want to ask you before we talk about Big Change is that before Big Change, you had another business called Masternaut, which you was sold for £60 million in 2011. So what's your secret, Martin? I mean, this can't be coincidence.
So my secret is that, and I would imagine a lot of people this resonates with, building great products that have a real business benefit, to the company, the users, and also their customers, and also helping the environment. Recruiting amazing people. You've got to have an incredible team to achieve your aims and ambitions. Always focused on customer service. I always overinvest in customer service. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Always over-investing, and the ability to raise capital and not to run out of cash while growing the business. So I've got a very, I've got steel inside me, contrary to what my wife says. I'm built with steel, and I'm ready for the bumpy ride that entrepreneurs have to face.
Yeah, and absolutely. And people talk about being an entrepreneur. It's not a linear line, it's ups and downs. You've been in Leeds for a long time. You're Leeds through and through. How do you think the tech sector has changed over the last 20 years, Martin?
I think it's really come on a lot, because obviously Leeds is a great place to live. Literally from the centre to the outskirts, it takes you about 15 minutes, to drive. Beautiful surrounding area, great city, really compact, small, and I think it's attracted people that wanted to move away from London or other bigger cities, and I think having organisations like Sky and other technology businesses has been huge, and obviously the tech sector in Leeds is probably now, we're probably one in the top 5 UK centres for technology, and also with the pandemic, people have realised now that even though you're based in Leeds, we can employ people anywhere in the world, and we can still be a Leeds, Leeds-based business. MOT, Chris.
MOT, matter of time.
No, marching on together.
Right, we're showing our age now. Now, one part of today's webinar will focus on investment, and that's one of the reasons for bringing you in, other than the fact that you use acronyms for everything. About 12 months ago, a US-based VC called Great Hill Partners made a £75 million majority investment into Big Change, which valued Big Change at the time at 100 million. How did that investment come about? And does being in Leeds, does it prevent you getting investment from anywhere else in the world, would you say?
We used a firm, a company called KPMG. They're a worldwide organisation. A gentleman called Graham Pierce and his team supported me on the process. We started working with them about 5-6 years before we even started the real process, and they really helped us flesh things out. Great Hill Partners, who are a US-based private equity, were tracking businesses, obviously, that appeared on the Microsoft, the Tech Track 100, the various other, awards type of schemes, and obviously that's really important for entrepreneurs to go in for awards to get to become visible. And Great Hill's got in touch with us about 3 years ago, and they got involved in the process when we looked to bring an investor into Big Change. We had about 100 interested parties. We had about 4 main interested parties who gave us offers, and ultimately Great Hills saw that Big Change had a big heart and was based in Leeds, and where we were based had nothing to do with the decision. They wanted just to back a market leader.
Yeah. Have you got a box, a corporate hospitality box at Ellen Road, or have you got tickets?
No, we've got a real box. Obviously we invite customers, prospects, and I have to say that I've been to one game there because there's never enough room for me. And mind you, I've lost 2 stone over the last few months, so probably fits in now.
Well, I mean, I could fit in any time, just need the call. But the reason I ask, other than an outrageous suggestion that you should invite me, is that how important do you think it is to have a Premier League club? How Leeds are in the Premier League in terms of when you're trying to sell yourself around the world, how well known is Leeds, and does the football help?
Absolutely. I mean, we've all been in taxis in Mallorca, New York, or the Caribbean, and you say you're from Leeds, and they say Leeds United. That's the first thing people say, Leeds United. So having a Premier League or the old Football League famous team is absolutely huge. I think also the fact that we've got a manager called Bielsa helps us because he's world famous, and that's some of the partners at Great Hill are great fans of the Premier League, and they love to watch Leeds, especially last year. Been a bit different this year, but I still think we'll make the cut.
No, absolutely. Martin, I'm going to ask you one more question before I come to Sarah Pawson. Just noticed Charlie Holt joined in. Charlie, nice to see you. I don't know why I'm waving it before, but anyway, Charlie, there's a big wave for you there. You've announced your ambition to become a unicorn. You've got 250 staff. You want to grow to 500. How are you going to get from here to unicorn status?
So when we did the deal with Great Hill, our multiple was 8.5 times revenue. Our revenue at that point was about 12.5 million, our annual recurring software revenue. We've since grown it to near on 20 million. And at the moment, all our marketing investment is growing, and we're probably in future going to be growing like 50 to 100% growth year on year. So we can see our customer base doubling to about 4,000 customers. We're nearly at 2,000 customers. So within the next 3 to 4 years, 60 million revenue times 15 to 20 multiple. What does that get you, Chris?
I couldn't tell you, but you've not invited
me. It's about 1.2 billion.
You've not invited me to watch Leeds United, so I'm not going to use my 2 brain cells for that just yet. But no, absolutely. How important would you say that the Leeds City Region Tech Climbers is? Because there's so many tech companies in Leeds, of which you're one. How important is it that we celebrate that?
Absolutely. We need to celebrate each company's success, whether they're a company with a few employees or whether they've got thousands. It's all about encouragement, engagement. And I think Leeds and Yorkshire is amazing. You've got lots of what you call organizations that provide free support to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses, give them insights and support. So I think, we've got the wherewithal to help any company, providing they've got a good product and it's well thought out, we can provide any company the support.
Martin, you're the best speaker we've had so far today. That is beyond doubt. Thank you very much for that, Martin. Sarah Pawson, you heard from her briefly, founder and managing director of Fruition Consulting. So you set your first business up, Fruition IT, in 2008. During the global financial crisis. You do like a challenge because you launched your second business, Fruition Consulting, in 2020 during the global pandemic. So they've got a combined turnover of £27 million. Just tell us a little bit about what you do, Sarah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me as well. So obviously, like you said, there's 2 businesses within the Fruition group. Fruition IT, we provide talent solutions to the tech sector across the UK and Europe, and whether that be helping sourcing permanent employees for businesses, providing contingent labour solutions, outsourced recruitment projects, maybe companies looking to scale quickly, and we also have a suite of talent advisory services to help companies get ready to recruit. So companies like Big Change that are looking to double in size really need to have a recruiting culture to be able to achieve those sorts of numbers. Fruition Consulting is our sister company, I guess, and a very complementary business to our talent solutions business. And we do what we say on the tin, really. We're a tech consultancy. We provide solutions to technology problems, and that will be in the guise of either our team of experts through team augmentation, or it may be a company that's looking to outsource a project, and we will do the full end-to-end project delivery, typically across software build or optimizing infrastructure and platforms. That's kind of what we do in a nutshell.
One of the things as well that is interesting about your two businesses is that they're completely bootstrapped. You've not taken any investment on board. I mean, have you had offers of investment and just turned it down? What's been your approach to investment?
Well, I guess the key difference here is we don't build anything. We don't have any physical products. So it's relatively easy, particularly in the tech staffing business, to keep your overheads pretty lean. Our assets are essentially our people, our clients, our candidates, our data on our CRM. So growing the technology staffing business was fairly organic, and that enabled us to set up and fund the consulting business, really. So I guess Fruition Consulting has taken investment from Fruition IT, but it's meant we haven't needed to go externally for any investment. Would we in the future? Absolutely, if the opportunity was to present itself in the right way and we wanted to scale and needed investment, but I don't see that happening in the short term.
You've been in Leeds for over 14 years now, Sarah. How has the tech sector changed during that time?
Oh, it's a good question. Well, it's
sorry, sir, I didn't hear that.
Sorry.
Did you say good question? Did you say good question?
It's a good question.
Yeah. Just wanted the audience to hear that. Yeah.
Right. So sorry. Well, it's a lot bigger than 14 years ago, which is stating the obvious. Obviously, we've got a much broader range of companies here, and we've been able to attract some really big brands and global organizations to the region who have many times come in search of the tech talent that we have to offer. So it's created a greater opportunity for people to work and live here, which is fantastic. I think we've seen increased diversity in our sector, which has led to better innovation across the region. And I think we're seeing much more innovative methods and ways of attracting and nurturing talent than perhaps we've seen before. Companies being much more open to different methods of being able to find those elusive, brilliant people. Like Martin said, that's key to his business's success moving forward, being able to attract the right people.
Nice to see some familiar faces in the chat. Nigel Jones, Nigel, nice to see you. Top guy. Just posted in there, actually. If anyone's got a question they want to submit, just send it through to the chat and we'll ask it after each panel discussion. You work with the likes of Sky Betting, it was Martin referred to it earlier. TransUnion, PokerStars, GDS Group. Have the needs of tech companies changed over recent years, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a need for brilliant technologists. I think that hasn't changed. Obviously, the skills that companies require now has changed because technology has progressed and moved on. I think obviously remote working has had a significant impact on what companies need, but it's also meant that we have a much wider talent pool now for organizations, so companies can be much more flexible with their resource requirements. I think what we're seeing a lot more of recently is perhaps more of a kind of gig approach to how companies deliver projects now. So looking at team augmentation to be able to scale teams really quickly, to find that right blend of experts. That's something that we're seeing a lot more of now, so that companies can deliver projects quicker, better, more efficiently, to get things delivered.
A point that Martin made earlier, he said that based in Leeds, but you can attract anyone from anywhere in the world now, and obviously working remotely does enable that. You were saying to me when we spoke a couple of weeks ago for an interview for Tech Blast that Silicon Valley is knocking on the door of Leeds and other cities now looking for talent. I mean, this is a global talent race, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that poses additional challenges. One, if you're in our position, and how on earth do you source globally for talent? It's where do you begin? How do you even scratch the surface? But I think what we've seen is particularly some global organizations, US-based, targeting some of our regional talent here in Leeds, and offering huge increases in salaries, which almost makes it difficult to compete. And I think that with the whole remote working is really going to change the dynamics of how people think and work moving forward. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch that develop.
So, final question. You founded 2 successful businesses, combined turnover £27 million, employ lots of people, not taking any investment on. You've also got 2 twin boys, aged 8, I think. And we were talking about the, do you see yourself as a bit of a role model in the sense that trying to combine running a business with also having a family and the difficulties that sometimes presents as well? What's your approach, Sarah?
Ooh. We need to ask Martin the same question, I think, don't we? Not just because I'm female.
No, that's a fair point. No, that's a fair point. I will come back to Martin.
Sorry, Martin. So I think, if I can inspire any other females to consider setting up their own business, then brilliant. I think obviously juggling, as everybody who might have children or has responsibilities for other people in their lives. I think being in a position where you have a family and running a business poses some challenges around juggling. But I think it's just prioritizing, and I think adopting kind of flexible working has helped lots of working parents get that balance right. So hopefully we'll see that be a key factor in encouraging more young budding entrepreneurs to consider setting up their own organization.
No, absolutely, and we spoke about it with the piece we did for Tech Blast. So, and you made exactly the right point. I'm not going to ask every person that question if they're female because they're a working mum. It'd be the same whether you're a working man or a working mum or a working father, etc., etc. I mean, in fact, Martin, it's worth coming back to you for this very point. When I asked you who you put your success down to, you put it down to your wife as well, actually. And you also said you've got 4 children, 2 of whom are disabled, and that's what drives you. Is that fair, Martin?
Yeah, I'll just correct you. 2 have disabilities, not disabled, because there's people that probably have harder disabilities. But my wife, I've always worked with her. She's always been a great sounding board. Some people can work with spouses, others can't. I love having my family in the business. They can join me, or if they don't join me, they don't join me. I think I call big change a family. And I think treating your team as a family is so important.
And actually, Sarah talked about the Fruition family as well. So thank you very much for that, Sarah. And thank you very much for that, Martin, as well. Going to come to Eleanor Metcalf, brand and marketing lead at Tread. Thanks for stepping in because Peter Kirby unfortunately had to pull out. Just explain how Peter and his co-founder Will Smith, not that Will Smith, how they met for the first time, because that was the beginning of Tread, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they actually met years ago, right back at the start of their university days. They were on the same course, and I think they were in the same lecture or something and just bumped into each other, and they've known each other ever since. So it's been a long friendship for them. And I think working together has been something that they've known they've wanted to do for years, and it was just about finding the right time and also finding the right idea, which is how they eventually got to Tread. Well,
it wasn't the first idea, was it? I mean, I think Will used to keep a record. What was the number that it was before they finally got to Tread?
I can't remember the exact number. I wouldn't say it's a small one, but I think they found it so important to not just do something, but do the right thing, both for them, but also an idea that they felt was doing the right thing for other people in the world around them. So eventually they landed on Tread, and very glad they did.
I've just looked at my notes. I think it was the 67th idea that Will came up with before they finally pressed a button on it. But they both went out and they worked outside the business before they actually started up the business as well. They wanted to get that experience. Now, essentially, Tread is a green debit card as well. Just explain what it does.
Yeah, so Tread is a company that was founded to make people's money work both for them, but also for the planet. So we're very sustainability focused. And like you say, our first product is a green debit card, which helps people track, reduce, and offset their carbon footprint. So as you spend, you get a better understanding of the carbon footprint of all the things that you're buying, and then Tread will help you reduce your impact over time and offset any expenditure that you can't cancel out. So you can be confident that your impact on the planet is being reduced when you use us.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can actually see when you get your credit card, you can see what damage you're doing, or the people that you're working with as well, whether or not they're the right sort of retailers that you want to be buying off as well. I was looking at your numbers and your investment numbers. You raised £300,000 from angel investors and around £700,000 from crowdfunding. Now, I love the story of how an angel investor the idea was pitched to him, and he was convinced to invest in Tread by his two daughters. Just tell us about that.
Yeah, so as you say, I think Will and Pete had pitched this idea to him, and he was mulling it over. I think it was his daughter hearing about the idea and getting really excited about it that made him think, oh, actually, there's probably something in this. And we have seen that a lot of the interest in what we're doing and in the product that we offer comes from a younger generation, people who have kind of grown up with the climate crisis being a reality and are really motivated to try and do things differently in their day-to-day lives that will help minimize their impact. That being said, the age group of people that are on our waiting list currently is actually quite spread out. And interestingly, there are lots of parents now who are also looking into how can I help build a better world for my kids? How can I educate my kids better about the planet? We see lots of people in that age demographic too that are interested in TRED and keen to use us. So there is really a range.
You went onto Crowdcube and you set out to raise £400,000 in a month. You raised it in 90 minutes. I mean, that must have been crazy. What was that like?
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I think we were all so gobsmacked. We weren't expecting at all that speed of success. And frankly, it was a bit stressful because we had foolishly turned on like manual approvals for people to access our pitch deck. And we were just getting inundated with emails of all these people that wanted to see what we were about. So but really exciting and obviously an amazing vindication of the product that so many ordinary people that maybe aren't expert investors understood what we were doing and were passionate about it to, you know, put their own hard-earned money to support us. So really meaningful and really exciting.
You were the first employee outside of the co-founders, so you really believe in it yourself.
Yeah, I came on board before, you know, the funding was secured actually. So a bit of a risky move from me, but I really believed in the vision that Will and Pete had, and I believed in them. Like, they're an amazing team, and I was really excited to get the chance with them to build a business and a brand that was doing the right thing from the ground up. And it's been an incredible journey so far.
And originally, it'll start off as a debit card. You're going through final testing at the moment. You've got a waiting list of more than 15,000 people on that. In fact, I actually think the debit card itself is made out of recycled plastic, albeit people can also use Google Pay if they wish as well. The vision of the co-founders is much bigger than that. It's much more than just a debit card, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we want to become the leading green fintech, whether that's debit cards or people managing their money in other ways like investing, savings, loans. But ultimately, for individuals like you and I, our money is one of the biggest things we can do to help make an impact on climate change on the planet. So helping people manage their money in a way that's greener, whether it's day-to-day spending or longer-term saving, we want to be there for them every step of the journey.
And do you think sustainability could be a real niche for Leeds?
You know, it's interesting. I think there's something about the fact that the city is so close to like these amazing kind of national parks and nature that makes it a city that a lot of people seem to be quite sustainably minded, just wandering around, looking at the number of like retailers and cafes that have sustainable angles, like the number of people that have signed up from the Leeds area and are excited and supporting TRED. There seems to be like a growing movement of people there that are really passionate about sustainability and protecting the environment. So I think there's absolutely a possibility that Leeds could transform into not just a tech specialist sector, but also a green tech sector as well.
Not easy to say, Eleanor. Not easy to say.
I know,
thank you very much.
no tongue twister.
No, thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you very much for that, Eleanor. Excellent. David McKee of Slingshot Simulations, based out of Nexus, is a spin out from the university as well. Now, David's fluent in Greek because he spent a lot of time there as a child, but we'll stick to English for the purpose of this conversation. Now, Slingshot Simulations is all about AI and data, but in simple terms, David, what problem are you trying to fix?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'll give a quick example, very quick example in a second, but in essence, what we are about is democratizing data science, allowing anyone anywhere to unleash the power and capabilities of data science and data analysis. You might have heard about terms like digital twins, machine learning, AI, etc., but enable anyone, any of you listening or watching today, to be able to tackle and use those technologies without the challenges of either costs, technical expertise, etc. So really it's about getting there. And I'll give an example. 80% of our data, each of us, you and I, is sitting on hard drives, maybe on the cloud or maybe on a shelf somewhere, and is not being used, is not being leveraged. And the value and the impact of that is significant. So for example, data that is just sitting in the cloud, for example, on Dropbox, on Google Photos or wherever, contributes per year 6 million tons of carbon, and that's not being used. There's no value, it's just hard disk spinning, and we're not using it. My wife went through the other day and was looking at the random photos we had on our phones. I think we deleted over 1,000 random photos from just the last 6 months because we downloaded pictures from here, there, and everywhere, and we just haven't got around to deleting them. how much, that's generating CO2, but going through and helping people discover that has a huge impact.
Yeah, and it's you mentioned earlier, it's called dark data. I was doing some research about this. So the economic value of this dark data is thought to be somewhere in the region of $11 trillion. And it's just sitting there doing nothing as well. Now, in terms of Slingshot, you launched that university in 2019-20. I know you've raised 750 grand from the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund, MPIP. We'll hear from them shortly, Mercia Finance and the University of Leeds. But how much funding have you raised in total, David?
So in total, we've done 2.25 million in funding from that supporting team, and I will say it's been, we've been really fortunate and supported very heavily from both MPIF and Mercia as well, and we continue a strong research partnership with the university. So, and it really has been an interesting journey around partnership as well. We've been very judicious about where we took money from as well, because it's about actually how we work together to build this ecosystem, this vision together. And of course, someone has to write the check to support that, but it is about finding the right people as well.
It's worth saying that you work with a lot of enterprise customers as well, and a lot of people think big data and all of this stuff, it's all aimed at the big enterprise. You also work with the SMEs. I think you're coming up with a package which is very cost efficient for SMEs. Tell us about that.
Absolutely, and we didn't plan this to be today, but this week we are actually launching our SME product portfolio, which will launch to invited individuals tomorrow, and then you can get access later this week. So if you're interested in finding out more on that and getting access, just sign up on our website and we'll get you a unique code. This will be starting, and there'll be a free community platform where you can go in and analyze and explore your data, as well as a £10 a month and £20 a month package for you to be able to actually access some really advanced analytics tools that you would normally need a software engineering degree to use. So personally, and I'm going to say this is my company, but I think 20 quid a month is a pretty good bargain for some pretty deep tech.
Yeah, it's just that, like, we were talking about a week and a half ago, and we were given an example about a fish and chip shop. Now, a fish and chip shop traditionally, which you wouldn't imagine would want data or would have a lot of data, they might work out how busy they've been simply by looking how much fish they've not sold. Okay, but there's data in everything, isn't it? Just tell us about, pardon the pun, the deep dive that you can do with the chip shop.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great example, and I think we're talking about. I just driven home past a great fish and chip shop 5 minutes down the road from our house, and you look at, well, what is it that drives the factors of how many people are going to buy fish and chips on, say, a Tuesday evening? Well, actually, for that particular chippy, it is the amount of traffic. Actually, is there space for people to park, to pull in? There's no dedicated car parking. Well, there's geospatial information about, is there space along the sidewalk to do that? What about the weather? Well, they don't have space in the shop for people to queue inside, particularly during the COVID pandemic. So people are queuing out on the pavement. So if it's tipping with rain, you're actually not going to get that many people. And understanding then other driving factors, all of that is data and information that, unless you're an expert data scientist, it'd be really hard to pull together into a single platform. And so our vision is allowing that just to be there at the click of a button and say, you know what, I'm curious of pulling this together and actually asking some of those questions. So we're looking at supporting people like that. Another great example is we've been working with the Rainforest Trust to help them do that at a global scale to help them prevent deforestation. And that is something like 30 different types of data going into that one. We start doing it in seconds and minutes to save, kind of really to help make the world we're living in a better place.
You're based at Nexus, the University of Leeds' Innovation Hub. In fact, Martin posted on the chat that that's where he started life all those years ago, under a different name. You've grown from 6 staff in March 2020 to 16 now, plus 3 interns. How big can you become, and do you see yourself scaling in Leeds?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there isn't really a limit in Leeds. I think one of the really interesting, exciting things this has been alluded to already is that we've got a great collaborative ecosystem here. Whether that is looking for talent, there is a great talent pool. It's competitive, no doubt, but it is there. But also, actually, as a business leader, there's so many other business leaders here who are willing to talk. And if you have a question, even if it's a competitor, most of us were happy to talk to each other and say, yeah, actually, that didn't work for me. Okay, great. I'll skip those 2 years of pain you went through. Thank you very much. That's great. And it builds a bigger market for us all. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And Nexus has been great for that. And we're excited. I'm excited to be sat in Nexus today and looking forward to the buzz returning, which we've not had for the last 18 months. And just sitting there, and you never know who you'll bump into and what opportunities will come. But kind of for us, we see with the next 2 to 3 years, we'll triple in size primarily based here, although we do have a US presence now as well.
I've been asked a question, particularly for you. What part, you're part of the Nexus community at the University of Leeds. What part has that played in your journey, David?
I think the biggest thing, there's two things. One is actually, I think, recruitment in many ways, because actually we've been able to provide a brilliant place for people to work in a great atmosphere. And, you know, we've got a team who they love coming into the office. They want to come back into the office. And, you know, we have hybrid working. We've got all the usual arrangements, but people want to be here because it's a great place to work. And it's in the city centre. You can go down to the pub afterwards, and that's great. But then also, particularly pre-pandemic, you know, you bump into all sorts of people. We have several partnerships we've established just because we bumped into someone in the cafe. And I can't think of any other cafe where you literally would you might bump into a senior stakeholder from an Arup or McDonald or any of our client base, and suddenly you've got a deal within an hour that you're saying, yeah, let's partner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's bringing people together and it's creating that collaboration. Now, we've got some questions that have been sent in to us. Sarah Donnelly has asked a question, very good question, Sarah, if you don't mind me saying so. Are you finding the digital skills gap is affecting Leeds tech businesses? And if so, what are the solutions? How can we start to address the talent problem? I'll come to Martin for that one, then I'll come to Sarah, because that's obviously straight up your street. So Martin, the question is, how, you know, are you finding the digital skills gap is affecting your business?
No, not at all. No, we're just, yeah, I don't see any problem with that at all.
No, absolutely. And not every business has got a tech recruitment problem. Sarah, what's your experiences at Fruition?
Yeah, I guess it's quite a relevant question to our business, because I guess we wouldn't exist if there wasn't a challenge with hiring. I think Sarah, did you ask? Let's go back to the question. Sorry.
Yeah,
what are the solutions? So I think obviously there's definitely a shortage of good tech candidates available on the market. I think organisations that are perhaps more forward thinking and perhaps adopting, I don't know, Martin's approach, but I think it's about trying to find people that are the right cultural fit for your business. I think it's about finding people that, okay, on day one, they might not have 100% of the technical skills that you require, but can you teach, train, and develop them to be the person that you want within 3 to 6 months? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think organizations that hire those types of people perhaps aren't experiencing such a challenge. I think some of the solutions out there, well, it's looking outside the normal methods of hiring. It's not just looking for people who, you know, are developers with 5 to 10 years experience. It's looking at people that maybe have been out of work for a period of time. Many people, organizations are running returners programs now into tech, where people who've maybe taken a career break for whatever reason are looking to get back into an opportunity. Some really great training boot camps, companies like North Coders, where they're allowing and enabling people to cross-train into our sector. You know, seeing people that, you know, work in more traditional roles, maybe in finance or insurance, that have some great problem-solving skills and ability that can add value into your business. Some really good apprenticeship schemes. So I think the key solution really is, if you're expecting that person on day one to hit the ground running into your business and there's no flexibility around skills, then I think there definitely is a challenge. But I think for organizations that are flexible and adaptable, then I think it can be overcome by hiring the people fit first.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I'm going to ask the final question to Eleanor and to David. I'll start with David if I may. Nigel Jones asks, how does Leeds differentiate itself from other cities? What is it particularly good at, and what should it focus on? David, what would your answer to that be?
I mean, I think I've alluded to it already. The first thing is the collaborative ecosystem, really. And I mean, between SMEs, large corporates, local authority, and the university, bringing those four together effectively and efficiently, saying, you know what, let's just try doing something cool, allows you to put that on a world stage. I'll give an example. We've been invited to present in partnership with some of our partners from the Leeds area in Barcelona IoT World Congress in May. That is an opportunity, and we're presenting that in partnership with some of the world's largest tech companies. Now, by bringing that partnership, and I look at the facilities the University of Leeds has. When we look at the world we live in, they're second to none in the world, and actually there's some phenomenal capability there that no company could afford to build unless you're a big corporate. So that
David,
partnership is the biggest thing.
Can I be a bit controversial?
Please do, Martin.
I don't think the Leeds universities, either of them, either Leeds Beckett or the University of Leeds, actually reach out enough to small SME businesses. I think they're big business supporters. Although I did start my 2 businesses in the Leeds Innovation Centre, I don't think they reach out enough to the local market from an SME perspective. I know that obviously you're a university spin out, and obviously you know how to work, get into all the different channels. But we tend to work with Huddersfield University, still in Yorkshire, and we've got tremendous engagement there. But I'd like to see. I know I'm working with Leeds Building College, and we've had an incredible support from them more recently, and they've got 5,500 students and apprentices. But I'd like to see Leeds University do more. I would say of all the kind of like Leeds City Council's incredible, lots of organisations. But I'd like the university to raise the game. And in terms of, very briefly, in terms of keeping people and recruiting people, we offer 34 days holiday, 4.5 day week, and only 40% of our people are tech people. So don't forget, we need salespeople and other people in the organisation. They're crucial.
No, and it's not done you any harm at all. Martin, when people always say, can I just be controversial? You can't say no, you can't. But you don't want that. This is the purpose of this conversation. You want people to be honest and open and to have a two-way exchange of views. David, I'm going to come to Eleanor because I need to get onto the next panel. But Eleanor, in terms of Tread, how do you differentiate yourself in terms of Leeds? Do you make a big play of the fact that you're based in Leeds as a company?
Yeah, interesting. We've sort of had conversations about how much we do this, and I think honestly it depends on who we're talking to. So for people within the UK, I think often the fact that we're from Leeds is a real differentiator because we're not part of the kind of general London conglomerate of companies that I think everyone has certain perceptions about. And there's definitely something about tapping into a feeling of community and showing that we're people that are from the UK, understand the UK, and have pride in where we're from is really important. That being said, when we're thinking more about investors, some of them are interested in where we're from, others don't really mind. They just need to know that we've got the financials and we know what we're doing. So I think for consumers, yes, it can be really powerful. In some business contexts, it's not as important, but we've definitely really benefited within the Leeds community from, as David says, the network of people there, how kind of open and collaborative people are with making introductions, etc. So we're definitely really happy to be part of the Leeds community, and it's an important part of building our employer brand and getting people in the door.
And James Devitt says, thank you for mentioning the University of Huddersfield in this context, Martin. And by the way, Huddersfield is very much in Leeds City region. It's also worth saying that Mark Stewart has contacted us. Hi, Martin. The University of Leeds has an SME week commencing the 28th of February. It's been organised by the Career Centre at the university. This is a bit like Anchorman, where the person just reads out what's written in front of him and anything could be there. I'm working with Leeds LEP to raise awareness of the graduate route, introduced last year to help support international students and graduates to work in the UK after their studies. I'm happy to engage with SMEs. So, you spoke, Martin, and the world listened. Thanks very much to our first panel, consisting of Martin Port, Sarah Pawson, Eleanor Metcalf, and David McKee. I know you'll give them a huge virtual round of applause. Thank you very much for them. If you want to follow the conversation on Twitter, you can. Twitter hashtag is hashtag Leeds Tech Climbers 22. That's hashtag Leeds Tech Climbers 22. Before our next panel, I'm going to interview Anna Hayes, who's the founder of Tech Climbers Initiative and a managing director of Active Profile. It's worth sort of setting the background. We worked with Anna on the Liverpool City Region Tech Climbers, and that was really successful. We've done 2 of those, Anna. I mean, how you've come to Leeds after Liverpool, you've got a lot of explaining to do, Anna. But just explain the idea behind the Tech Climbers.
Yeah, so thanks, Chris. We did do the first Tech Climbers in 2018 in Liverpool, and our original idea and drive behind the initiative was to showcase product-led technology businesses within the region. We think there's lots going on at a national level, that celebrates tech businesses and the different sectors of tech businesses, but there was nothing really focused on telling that regional story. So yeah, the benefits are really kind of threefold. I'll limit it to three. Obviously, profile and showcase for the businesses themselves as they come forward. The judges select a list of the top performing businesses within the region. So that accolade, businesses can carry that badge, forever, that you're kind of named a tech climber. I think through the data that we ask for, and it is a very easy entry process, but from that data, we start to see the clusters that are emerging kind of within a region and kind of what they're looking for from an investment and a support from a support perspective. And I think what we've seen is we've seen that this tells a story for the region that others who may want to relocate to the region or invest in the region, tells a nice story in terms of what's going on, a very current story about what's going on in the ecosystem and community that they can join.
Yeah, and this is open to businesses big and small, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we have a main list that we select for, and then we also have a ones to watch list. So I would really encourage anybody to enter, even if you're a startup or you're just kind of starting that growth journey. We're looking for ambition. So we're actually looking at how much you want to grow. That's one of the sections of the short questionnaire that you will be asked. And as I say, it's lovely to see as we run these initiatives year on year. It's great to see people moving from ones to watch into the main list too.
And this is the Leeds City Climbers, Leeds City Region Tech Climbers list. This is something that you're passionate about. It's not just Leeds, obviously it's called Leeds City Region, but you've got you've mentioned Huddersfield already today, Halifax. There's some really thriving cities, towns in and around Leeds as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, we want to get a picture on the whole region, and I think that's my kind of shout out to everybody, is to promote this as far as possible so that we get a really good picture of what is going on right across the city region. We are going into other regions as tech climbers over the next few months, so you'll hear more announcements of that as we start to build up that picture across the UK.
Okay, and Charlie Holt, who's never afraid and never slow in getting a response in, also says, don't forget Newcastle. How can we forget Newcastle? They're signing every footballer that was ever born. Charlie, Newcastle, I'm sure, will be on our list. Have you got a box at Newcastle, Charlie? And as the executive editor of BusinessCloud, I know the answer to this, because obviously it's not just a question of running the event. The full profiles will appear on BusinessCloud as well. So there's some permanency there as well, and there's some legacy. Final two questions. He hasn't got a box at Newcastle either. He's probably got one at Harrogate. How do people enter? If they think to themselves, I want to nominate myself or nominate a company for the Leeds City Region Tech Climbers, how do they go about putting themselves forward, and what happens next?
So if you head to techclimbers.co.uk, and you'll see that Leeds is live there at the moment. The entry, well, you can see that right from the homepage now, that's live. So we've tried to keep the questions to something that's minimal enough that it won't take too long. Lots of multiple choice in there. There are probably about 4 or 5 questions that do need a little bit of time and preparation. But you can go to the website and as you say, enter there. The process from there is that the entries are judged, and then everybody who enters, that's everybody, whether you're on the list or not, everybody is invited to an event, list launch event at Nexus. That'll happen in April, and at that event we'll announce the list, and then the next morning, Chris, thanks for that, it will be published onto BusinessCloud, and yeah, it will remain there as Tech Climbers 22 for Leeds City Region.
Thanks very much. Thanks for that, Anna. And just in case anybody wasn't in doubt, Charlie Holt has got a box at Newcastle Eagles basketball. So thank you very much for that. If I was a basketball fan, Charlie, I'd be on the case straight away. Thank you very much, Anna. Our second panel is the experts, and the businesses are also experts as well. The panel, they'll be appearing on the screen in a second, is made up of Sandeep Crowd, a partner at Hill Dickinson, Mel Elyard, senior manager at British Business Bank, Gareth Linton-Jones, partner at BDO, and Sarah Hex, who is business development manager at Mercia as well. So thank you very much to the four of you for joining us. I'll start, if I may, with Sandeep, who is the partner at Hill Dickinson. I was doing my research and I found something out about you, Sandeep. I don't want to embarrass you, but this is the sort of stuff that I find out. Is it true that you once met Mark Zuckerberg, and not only that, pinned him down for 10 minutes?
Well, I won't say I pinned him down. I don't want to start that rumor, but yeah, I was in India. It was about 6 years ago. And I went on a delegation with some tech businesses to India, and it was like a tech delegation swap with some Indian tech businesses. And he was in our hotel, and we saw him walking towards one of the bars with his bodyguards. We ended up following in, and I think they thought we were part of his entourage. And then, yeah, got talking to him for about 10 minutes, and as they were entering the Indian market. So yeah, it was an interesting chat.
It's funny, I mentioned it, Sandeep, because I did look at his autobiography in the index, and there's no mention of Sandeep in there at all. So you obviously left an impression with him. But on a serious note, Sandeep, you're Leeds born and bred. You've been brought in by Hill Dickinson to build up a pretty formidable team in Leeds. Just tell us what you're doing.
Well, yes, I've been brought in to build up the sort of business services side of the business. We've been in Leeds for about 5 years now, focusing predominantly on healthcare and doing work for the NHS and in health tech and in private healthcare. But I've been here to sort of then emulate the success we've had in Liverpool, Manchester and London, as well as our international offices, in growing a full service offering into Leeds. But I think, like, you know, the other panelists said, for us, it's not about filling it with people who sort of can bring in legal work. It's about making sure we get the culture right, so that our culture then matches the culture of our clients. So, you know, I think what we found throughout all our offices, if you've got happy lawyers working within the business, they provide a type of service that only happy people can.
Okay, well, we like happy, nothing wrong with happy.
Yeah.
Most people will know the Hill Dickinson name. They might not realise the scale of the company. Just tell us how big you are.
We're north of about 110 million turnover now. Like I said, our head office is in Liverpool with about 500 people. We've got 200 in Manchester, 200 in London, and then obviously Leeds is the sort of next project. We've also got offices in Hong Kong, Singapore, Monaco, and Greece, all of which focus around sort of marine and shipping and corporate, and they've been doing that for a long time. For example, the Titanic was one of our first clients, so yeah, we've been doing it for a while now. Okay,
well, they didn't all end the same way as the Titanic. Yeah. Two facts about you that the audience might not know. The first is the fact you're a Man United fan from Leeds, but that's an unpopular move. And the second is that you're an investor. Now, I'm not going to lower the tone, Sandeep, by talking about your love of the red side of Manchester. But your investments are interesting because you've invested in 10 companies over the years, 2 of which are in Leeds, 7 are tech businesses as well. So you can see it both from a lawyer's point of view and an investor's point of view as well. How would you describe the tech sector at the moment?
I think the tech sector at the moment generally is very strong. There's a lot of investment going in. There's a lot of incentives for people to invest, like myself, you know, with your own personal cash and tax breaks. And so, yeah, I see certainly the Leeds market being very strong. You know, like I said, I've got a couple of investments in some very good Leeds-based businesses. One of them which might be listing in the next few months, depending on the market. But yeah, you know, I think it's as strong as ever, and you know, it's a good time to be sort of working in the tech sector in the local region.
What trends are you seeing at the moment in terms of the tech sector? Are you seeing, for example, that, you know, London funds were traditionally quite insular in their outlook? Are they looking much more to the north now and cities like Leeds?
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of homegrown talent in terms of sort of private equity and funds investing in tech locally as well. But historically, with London, they've always looked into London and hadn't had the need to go anywhere else now. But with a lot of them, with the funds I've worked with historically out of London, they all want to sort of keep their ear out into Leeds and understand what's going on there, because, you know, there's not enough good businesses out there for them to invest in. So they see Leeds as one of the next big, exciting markets. And, you know, I've asked people like myself to keep their ear to the ground to sort of introduce them to any sort of good businesses. But yeah, I think there's certainly a lot more interest in Leeds and Yorkshire than there was 10 years ago.
We've heard that healthcare is clearly a big thing for Leeds, and health tech for the wider region as well. What sectors do you think are hot to trot in the Leeds City region at the moment?
Yeah, I think healthiness has always been very strong in health tech, but I think sort of betting is a very strong sector as well, with sort of Sky Bet, William Hill, and then linked to that is also the gaming sector, which I think is strong in the region as well, and especially with the gamification as a lot of processes over the next few years. I think it's going to be quite important.
I wrote out a list, as I want to do, of some of the private equity houses with the with a big presence in the north. Now, if you were playing this game and you had North Edge, YFM, BGF, Endless, LDC, Mercy, and Key Capital Partners, you'd have a similar list to me. And I'm sure I've missed a few off there. There's no shortage of money out there, is there, Sandy?
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of money out there, locally in the region. So with the funds that you've mentioned, there's I think people mentioned crowdfunding on the panel earlier. So there's plenty of money out there. There's individuals, high net worth, ultra high net worth in the region, all interested in investing locally as well. So it's a good time to be a business in the region looking for investment, because there's plenty of options out there. And obviously, the different options have their different strengths and weaknesses at different times in your businesses. So it's just important that you sort of pick the right one at the right time in your business journey. Don't
forget, you can send a comment through the chat facility at the bottom of your screen. Just final question before I come to Mel, Sandy, is how important is the Leeds City Region Tech Climbers Initiative?
Well, I think it's really important. I think sort of highlighting the talent that we've got in the region and identifying them, not only just to sort of put them in the spotlight, but also to encourage other businesses in the region as well, to show that if you do set up in Leeds, you can get somewhere. We've got some tremendous growing businesses that are recognized worldwide. So I think an organization like this, and to give them that profile, give them that shining light, is really important for our region and for the businesses involved as well.
Thanks very much, Sandy. Tell you what, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't realize how lucky he was to meet you, Sandy. He really doesn't. Sarah, I don't know whether or not you put your hand up deliberately or whether it was an accident. Okay, because in an auction you just bought whatever it was that I was selling. But in here it's just a bit of embarrassment. Mel Elliott. Thank you very much, Sandy. Mel Elliott, Senior Manager of British Business Bank. Now, I do need to apologise to Mel, and this has got nothing to do with work at all, but we jumped on a call last week and you had your bulldog, Lily, next to you. And as soon as my ugly face came on the screen, Lily did one and ran out your door. Now, is it just me, Mel, or is it a common theme that Lily does?
Well, what can I say, Chris?
It's
actually, don't take it personally. She does it every single time. She'll sit beside me very comfortably all day, and as soon as the camera switches on, she's off. She's out the door. So don't take it personally.
It's a very good sense, very good method in life. Now, let's talk about British Business Bank. It's big name, invests a lot of money. Just tell us what it does in simple terms.
So the British Business Bank is the UK's economic development bank. It's quite important to understand that we don't lend directly to SMEs. We work through a big network of partners. So if you like, we're a fund of funds rather than lending directly to SMEs. I sit within the UK network part of the British Business Bank, and it's really my role to ensure that SMEs are able to access finance for whatever stage of business that they're at.
I think you work with 180 partners, actually. You've been around a long time, and I say that as a positive. How has the region changed, and how well connected is it from a tech perspective in your view, Mel?
I think, Chris, from when I started really working in the tech sector and looking at Leeds City region, it's changed immensely, and Sarah said so earlier, it's more diverse, and that leads to better innovation, but it's much better developed. There are now strong clusters of activity in very different parts of tech, so that's great, but I think we've still got some way to go in terms of connecting that all together to make to give better visibility for SMEs to funders and better visibility to funders of SMEs. So I think there's still work to do there. In terms of the whole of the Leeds City region, because you're right, we kind of talk a lot about Leeds. Huddersfield's got to mention Halifax, Wakefield, York, Bradford, Harrogate. There's an awful lot within Leeds City region. So I feel that, times have changed. There is a lot more business support. There's a lot more funders, there's a lot more support in the ecosystem. I think it's now about connecting that up better.
Okay. One of the companies that you did invest in was Slingshot Simulations, who were on the first panel.
Yeah.
What was it about them that you liked?
I have to say, you'll speak to Sarah and Mercia, I guess, about that, because it wasn't me that invested in them. But in terms of what do I see in Slingshot Simulations, and I think Sarah will probably agree, an amazing team, an amazing technology, and a huge global market, which is really helpful when you're looking to invest in an opportunity. They have received investment through MPIF, which is one of the bank's programs, through Mercia Equity Funding, and through that they've been able to grow their technology and the team. I've been lucky enough to go in and see their labs, and I don't know if you have, Chris, but if you can get in there, have a look. I believe it's Europe's biggest sort of simulation lab of its kind. It's really, really impressive.
I'm waiting for the invite, but I've spent most of my life.
David, I'm sure. I'll invite you in.
It's not been a good day for invites, but I'm sure David will rectify that. Louise Wood, incidentally, has just posted. She's employment and skills, works in employment and skills at Leeds City Council, focusing on skills for the digital economy within Leeds. And it would be great to connect with anyone who is an interest in supporting this agenda. And her email address is in the chat. Now, Leeds has recently thrown its support behind the MIT. Regional Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program, known as MIT REAP, which has helped more than 50 nations and cities around the world to shape their economic and social fortunes. How important is it that Leeds has got a place at the top table, Mel?
Yeah, it's really important, and I think when you look at the calibre of the programme that's been delivered, and the fact that Leeds has been selected to be a part of that programme, that in itself is incredible. The programme's got a lot of support behind it. You've got key stakeholders like the university. I know Nexus are big supporters. The Leeds Academic Health Partnership. So again, it's a collaborative focus on the ecosystem in across the Leeds City region. I was particularly close to some of the early cohorts that went through, and I think again what's really impressive about what they've done with the programme is their ability to access these high growth potential entrepreneurs and businesses across the Leeds City region. Interestingly, they attracted a really diverse set of entrepreneurs in terms of the balance between male and female and ethnicity. So that all added up to a really interesting and innovative cohort that I saw. I know there's been subsequent cohorts. I think the thing will be, watching what happens to those businesses going forwards. But I think it's an incredibly important programme for Leeds.
What would your message be to tech companies watching this conversation right now? What would you say to them? I mean, is entering Leeds City Region's Tech Climbers list, is that a small piece, but a very important piece of the jigsaw in terms of raising the profile of the region? Yeah,
it is, and I would encourage all companies, ambitious companies, to engage with you, and I'm sure you will be awash with businesses who want to join the Tech Climbers. I think again, David said something earlier, which was, research the kind of investment that you want to make sure that you get the right investor and funder in your business. That's incredibly important. As other panelists have said, there is a lot of investment out there, but it's making sure you get the right kind of business investment to suit your business. And I'd also say, please give yourself enough time. Again, a lot of businesses have a tendency to leave things till the last minute. So give yourself enough time, do your homework.
Yeah, I think I might say the British Business Bank, or the Northern Paris Investment Fund part of it, has got 200 million burning a hole in its pocket, and you've got the nod from the government that you're going to get another 660 million when that finishes as well. So there's money out there, but do your homework is your underlying message. Right, okay, well, let's hope Lily makes an appearance before the end of this webinar. Thanks very much for that. Gareth Linton-Jones, partner at BDO, is our next speaker. Gareth, you just arrived in Leeds after 20 years in London, down south. So you're perfectly placed to describe London's tech scene. I mean, how is it down there? And, you know, how would you describe the situation in Leeds by comparison? And I caveat that by saying you spent 20 years in London, you've only just come to Leeds, so you're clearly well qualified to talk about the capital.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, in a word, it's vibrant. London is still the largest and probably still the fastest growing tech hub in the UK. And you could argue it's even second only to Silicon Valley globally. It's very well funded, and it's attracting more and more international investment. And it's now the home of some of the most daring, largest tech companies, and its centre. So, for instance, Google are in there with a huge headquarters around the King's Cross area, and it's great for startups as well. So you've got, and most people have probably heard of Silicon Roundabout, and increasingly that's kind of expanding now across the river into areas like London Bridge and the South Bank. So it's still going great guns, and I don't see any signs of it abating. In terms of Leeds, though, I mean, as you say, I've only been here for about 6 months, so I've only really just sort of scraped the surface. But from what, you know, I did find the entrepreneurs panel, for instance, very interesting, and that was sort of helping to sort of get me up to speed. But from what I can see, it does look fantastic. And there's some prominent businesses are starting to pop up on various lists and sort of national, regional lists. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities, and these are only going to expand. I can't wait to roll my sleeves up and get more involved. This initiative, you know, see it as my kind of first foray really into getting under the detail. It's very complementary to my own firm's desire to work with ambitious entrepreneurial businesses throughout their business cycle.
Do you think Leeds can rely on the whole levelling up agenda, or do you think it's a question of Leeds doing it for themselves?
Well, what is levelling up? Apparently, we're going to find that out soon. There's a white paper that is imminently due to be published by Mr. Gove, but at the moment, it's just could be just another slogan, and whether there's any money behind it, who knows? As a concept, it sounds like a great idea, but what does it mean, and how does it really going to work? I don't think ambitious entrepreneurs need to rely on this. And from what I can see, all the evidence is that Leeds is already doing it for themselves. Although, of course, if there is something to come from this, we should embrace any kind of extra help if and when it comes.
How would you describe the funding investment ecosystem in Leeds City region at the moment?
It's diverse. It's getting more diverse. I think, as Sandeep was saying, you know, obviously London has been very much the hub for sort of finance in the past, but there are other areas that you can go to. I mean, angel investors, we've been seeing a bit of activity there. There are groups such as Angel Groups, for instance, who have quite a strong Yorkshire investor base and who are interested in this sector as well. Of course, then you've got venture capital, and there are, of course, challenger banks and other lending institutions that sit firmly in that sort of SME space. But ultimately, private equity is sort of where to look when your business sort of reaches that level. And there are 4 or 5 good houses that I think have been mentioned earlier that are interested in doing, you know, deals in the tech space.
We heard from Tread earlier, obviously a green debit card. We also heard from Martin Port at Big Change, which puts sustainability very much front and centre of their business as well. I think I'm right in saying that Leeds and London have both been identified to get the Green Investment Bank. Do you think sustainability could be a real play for Leeds City region?
Yeah, I think it really could be. Eleanor alluded to it as well, and there's, I mean, I don't, much like levelling up, I'm not exactly sure what the Green Investment Bank means yet. There's not been a lot of detail behind it, but you know, so we'll wait and see what happens there. I think there's a what we've got to remember with sort of this green investment and sustainability and what all of that kind of stuff can mean. It's not all about just generating renewable power. I mean, that is obviously an important part of it, and that's something that the country is going to be focusing on over the next sort of 20 to 30 years, and the migration towards that. But around that, there is potentially a whole sort of world of service providers and collaborators in the tech space that can actually be rejuvenating that sector and supporting that sector as it develops over those years. You can kind of liken it to the oil and gas industry, really, which was obviously focused up in Aberdeen. Yes, you've got the extractors, but then around that, ingenious businesses, engineering businesses, technology business that sort of surface around it to supply that sector with what they need to be able to get the oil and gas out of the ground. So I can see, yes, obviously it'd be great. The badge of having the Green Investment Bank here is not to be sniffed at, if as and when it comes. But it's not just about the fact that we've got a lot of wind in Yorkshire and we can just build loads of wind farms. It's actually everything else around that as well, I think.
Thank you very much for that. Our final speaker is Sarah Hex, Business Development Manager at Mercia. Unusual fact about Sarah, played tennis for Yorkshire. Is that right?
Yeah, you can't get much more Yorkshire, definitely.
Proper Yorkshire.
Just to prove I'm definitely from Yorkshire, yeah.
You told me something earlier which did surprise me, which was that the name Hex means witch in German. True or false?
Yeah, and it means to put a jinx on something as well. I just wondered if that's why you left me till last, Chris, to be honest, just in case.
You always need a strong runner at the end of a relay. And you don't get much stronger than a Yorkshire tennis player as far as I'm concerned. Who knows what Mercia does?
Yeah, so we're one of the fund managers mentioned, I think, by Sandeep and Gareth, but we are a fund manager. We have a varying load of about 9 funds with about 940 million assets under management. And when I say we've got about 9 funds, a lot of them are regional funds. So we are the NPIF that we've been talking about. We do manage NPIF equity and debt. We invest and we do provide debt as well. So that's usually from around startup all the way through. And we also have a PE fund as well. So it's all the way through to exit. We've got about 450 in the portfolio.
450 companies, SMEs in your portfolio.
450, yeah.
Okay. Now, so if I've understood it correctly, I summarise what you're saying, that you believe there's a big vibrant sector outside of London. There's a big vibrant sector in London, but that's better served perhaps. And you're serving the sector outside of London, and you believe passionately that your sweet spot is regional investment. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think, thanks to the likes of British Business Bank, who have also identified that with the Northern Powerhouse Fund and Midlands Engine Fund, and then we've got the North East Fund as well. But I looked at our numbers in the 6 months of last year. Of the 74 companies we invested in, 41 of them were in Yorkshire and Humber. I think that's a pretty staggering number. And I think it goes to show what potential there is outside in the regions. So yeah, it is for us, it's important. And we've built our offices to reflect that as well. So, Newcastle, Leeds, Manchester, but also on the ground in Hull, Northallerton, Scarborough, we've got people out there just for that reason.
I think it's really important as well that we don't just you don't just look at the main cities, that you cover the areas outside it as well. So it's good to have some boots on the ground. We'll be finishing in about 10 minutes, but if you have got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat room. You're sector agnostic, you don't just do tech, but would it be fair to say that tech is one of your sweet spots?
Yeah, I think for any venture capital PE firm, there's no doubt that tech's taken over as a sector in these last 10 years in every shape and form. And I think we mentioned a few. We've seen some great growth in gaming. Seems to have been over the last couple of years, that's definitely had a great effect. I know my son's been playing his Xbox a lot, so that definitely has contributed towards the gaming world. And I think as well, there's the infrastructure that's been put in place for a lot of tech companies supports that growth as well. So yeah, as much as we're a generalist fund, or we manage a lot of generalist funds, we have got the expertise more within the team on the tech.
Which how important are university spin-outs? We heard from one earlier, slingshot simulations, but how important are they and companies like that in terms of to the tech vibrancy of the region?
I mean, I think it goes. I heard a lot of talk before about Leeds Uni, but I think we forget there's another 9 within the regions as well. We've got Huddersfield, we've got York. So I think they've all got a big part to play in supporting tech businesses. But I also think they do so much for the city as well. It just breeds the more students that come to Leeds that go through the process, and somehow maybe it is the spin out that they go down, or even recruitment into a tech business. It then breeds and brings a bit more of a name. So I think there's lots of reasons why. I think the R&D support is pretty important, and I think whatever shape and form and whatever stage the SME's in, it gives a great basis for any tech business coming out of it. And we've invested in a lot. In fact, when Mercia first formed, that's what we invested in, was spin out technology businesses more within the Midlands at the time. So we've always had a real passion to work with the spin outs as well, and to support them and invest in them when we can.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a sugar-coated conversation. So we're like throwing a few googlies to talk about cricketing parlance there. But what's Leeds City region missing? Is it missing anything? Is the tech sector missing anything? Does it need something that will really take it to the next level, in your opinion, Sarah?
Yeah, I think there's two things. I think one of them we've touched on a little bit is Leeds. It's not just Leeds, and I think the infrastructure outside of Leeds for a tech business, it is not as good. If I was in Scarborough and had some fantastic tech business, do I get the same as what if I was in Leeds? And I just don't think we've really reached out to the regions, and there's such potential in those regions as well. Hull and some of those that we've talked about. So I think there could be a lot more within the city region. I think that kind of support, but like I say, I think outside of Leeds would weigh you on. And another one, we just don't shout about it enough. I think we've got, and this is why Tech Climbers will be a great way of doing that. But we've got some fantastic names and we've got some fantastic businesses. And I'm not sure outside of Yorkshire, Leeds, how many people know about them. And I think there's a big PR that needs to be done around what we have got. It's not within our culture or nature, some of it, I think, but actually I think that's one of the other things that we could do a lot more of.
No, Sandeep, what, and I'll ask the same question in terms of Sandeep, Mel and Gareth, slightly unfair question to Gareth, but what do you think would really benefit Leeds? Is there something missing? Is there something extra? And how important is it that the region shouts about itself? Because if it doesn't, other regions will do.
Yeah, no, I think I share Sarah's view on that. I think we just don't make enough noise about the talent that we've got in the city and the youth and the sort of talent pool that's available and how collegiately Leeds works together and the regions work together. And I think making more noise about that, I think people will stand up and listen more. And I think we are just guilty of not shouting about it, and I just think that's the nature of the people, really, and we just get on with it, don't we, and we just work it out ourselves, and and we've got a lot of successful business out of it, but I think we can attract more talent from outside of the region into the region if we just let people know how good it is.
Actually, just another question coming in. There's a lot of talk about ESG, which is environmental, social and governance credentials. When it comes to raising investment, does the panel have any practical advice for businesses when it comes to preparing for this? It's ESG 3 years ago was barely touched, barely talked about, but now having your sustainability, ducks in a row is vital. Mel, what would you say in terms of does the panel have any practical advice for businesses when it comes to preparing for ESG? I think you've conveniently muted yourself because I've asked you a difficult question, Mel. Bring Lily in.
To be on mute.
Is ESG, is it a really big important subject for you?
It is. I think it should be a big important subject for everybody. Yes, it is for me. I've got a particular passion in making sure that there is if we think about just the diversity aspect, that that's there, that it's embedded, that it's just business as usual, really. But I think it is something incredibly important for companies to consider, think about, and then share and talk about their plans in that space. There's good resources out there. Use them and make sure that it's visible.
And there's a question here from Nigel Jones, which will be the final question, because you never improve on a Nigel Jones question. What more could we collectively be doing with the Leeds Digital Festival? It is perhaps our best vehicle to promote what's going on across the city region. Well, obviously, the Leeds Digital Festival is Stuart Clark's baby. He will be one of the throngs of people watching this. I know he's always happy to talk, but Sarah, from your point of view as well, I'm not going to ask Gareth it because Gareth is a newbie to Leeds. You'll still be a newbie in Leeds in 20 years, Gareth. Just in terms of things like the Leeds Digital Festival, it does put Leeds on the map, doesn't it? And it's something that Leeds City Region Tech Climbers List is trying to strive to follow as well. But what's the question from Nigel is it perhaps our best vehicle to promote what's going on across the city region? What would you say about that, Sarah?
Yeah, I think Stuart's done a fantastic job with Leeds Digital Festival. it's still not that old, you wouldn't believe. And I think that that's another thing that, you know, it's still quite in infancy with a couple of years of setbacks as well, the digital festival. So I think there's a lot more to come with that as well. I suppose for Stuart, you know, it's a big job trying to get out that what is Leeds doing. And, you know, it's a small group of people trying to do that. And as that grows, it gets bigger and more people get involved. So yeah, I think it's one of many. I think we could do it. There's other ways as well, you know, as a city that we could do that, and as a region that we could get out there. And like, you know, at the risk of repeating myself, I think we just also need to remember Leeds Digital Festival is Leeds, and this is another, you know, bit about us shouting out, is actually really showcasing those that are in the rest of the region as well.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Sarah. You had me in a spell for the last 15 or 20 minutes, you know. Thank you very much for that. So Sarah, to Gareth, to Mel, and to Sandip, and to Lily, our absent ball. Thank you very much to them. Thank you to our sponsors and our partners, to Hill Dickinson, Mercia, Addison Young, BDO, Nexus at the University of Leeds, which I'm looking forward to going to see in association with West Yorkshire Combined Authority Leeds Digital Festival, which we've heard of. We've heard a lot about Tech Nation and Zoot Media, and brought to you by Active Profile. It was like the Squid Games there. We had all these people at the start, and now it's just me, the winner. Thank you very much. Also like to thank Active Profile as well, and BusinessCloud, of which I'm the executive editor, and details of this event and how you can enter the Leeds City Region Tech Climbers list will be appearing in that as well. So keep an eye out on that, and don't forget to enter the Leeds City Region Tech Climbers 2022. Just look for their website, techclimbers.co.uk. Thanks very much, as always, everyone. Thank you to all our speakers and our panelists, and we'll see you on the other side. Take care.